All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of A Sip of Knowledge with Marty Duffy, Liz Rhoades, and Lew Bryson. Plus, this week's special guest, Darryl McNally of the new Limavady Irish Whiskey, which Lew studied very closely in grad school. I'll let your host give a more formal introduction to Darryl in just a moment. Real quick, before I turn things over, I'm Will Hookingo from Savvy.co. As always, welcome to the show. On your right, you'll see a chat box. Feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're joining from around the world. It's always fun to see that. If you have a question at any point throughout the show, there's a little button at the bottom that says Ask a Question, and surprise, that's what you press in order to enter in your question and make sure we see it. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes it easy to do that. I like the visual cues, Marty. Nice. With all that said,
the hearing impaired.
Yeah, for the hearing impaired. With all that said, though, I will turn things over to your host now.
Hey, thanks there, Will. And in honor of our guests this week, let me give you a little old Irish proverb. When sliding down the banister of life, may the splinters face the other way. Lew found that out the hard way. Hi, everyone.
Sliver me timbers.
Sliver me timbers. Hi, everyone. My name is Martin Duffy. I am a former senior master of whiskey for DIAGEO.
Yeah, because that's the way DIAGEO likes it.
Yes, they did. They kind of made it that way. 14 glorious years just thrown out the window. And then another additional 18 months kind of out the window, too, as the national brand ambassador for Benedictine French liqueur.
It's all been downhill since then.
It really has. It's been a long, slow slide. 8 distinguished years as the co-producer of the Chicago Independent Spirit Expo, and as of this month, 7 glorious years as the sole brand representative of Glencairn Crystal.
Congratulations.
The whiskey
Bravo.
glass there is, including the invisible Glencairn glass. That's brand new, so clear you can't even see it. Even the whiskey inside of it.
Yeah, right?
Can't even see it.
Warps the liquid.
So anyways.
Technical thing. Don't worry about it.
Okay there, Liz Mountain Rhoades.
Awesome. Thank you, Marty. Yeah. Super exciting. Super excited to have Darryl on. Thanks for joining us. This is my last episode broadcasting from Israel. I'm about to hop on a plane in a few hours, but I'm really excited to spend my last hours here talking with all of y'all.
That sounds so final.
So final.
It does, doesn't it?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Liz Rhoades, technical distiller and spirit consultant. Have just over a decade of experience in alcoholic beverage, spanning across several different products and substrates, including beer, rum, vodka. But my particular favorite and expertise, of course, what the show is all about is whiskey. Spent most of my career at, a small little mom and pop known as DIAGEO, but am now currently founder and principal at Spirit Safe Consulting. Hey, OMG, want to learn more? You can. If you scroll down to the About the Host section, there's actually a little nifty link to my website. Click it, check it out, give me some love. Over to you, Lew.
Thanks, Liz. I guess I'm just here. I don't have anything to say about where I am.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sorry. What?
Didn't you write 2 startling books?
I do have an excellent book, but before that, I started as a small book. No. God, now I'm all confused. I was a whiskey writer, and before that, a beer writer, and before that, a librarian. So there's my life story. Managing editor of Whisky Advocate for 20 years. Learned my chops, straighten things out, etc. And then went freelance. I am now a senior drinks writer for the Daily Beast, the award-winning half-full website about booze and food. And pushing my book, Whiskey Masterclass, and of course the classic tasting whiskey. Thank you, Marty. And today I am drinking an old bottle of the Quiet Man, an 8-year-old single malt. Still drinking pretty good. So that's all I got. Back to you, Marty. Please introduce
All right.
Darryl.
Thanks, Lewis. By the way, I was trying to snag a bottle of Blackbush in your honor, Darryl, but I couldn't get at it. It's underneath a bunch of stuff.
The hell's that, a milk bottle?
Whole case of it. No, this is the Kelly whiskey from Headframe.
Oh, nice.
We had a while back.
Amazing.
It's in honor of the Irish. So,
Yes.
but it's made here in the good old US of A. Okay. Hi, everyone. This week, we have an old friend and a man very distinguished. As I have said many a times, if there are bodies buried out there or casks of whiskey, Darryl knows where they are. Might even put them there.
Might even have buried one or two.
He worked at Bushmills for many, many years. So Liz, Darryl, and I are all former alumni of that little mom and pop organization. Well, Liz, snooze you lose. You could have been a librarian at DIAGEO, but no.
Could have.
Passed it up. He's worked at the Dublin Liberties Distillery, and now he is working with Whistle Pig on his very own whiskey. The man is just submerged in whiskey.
Oh, there he is.
Luminary. The Illuminati. He's with the Illuminati. Okay. Everyone. Master. I don't know if you go by use the term master distiller. Do you use that term, master distiller, Darryl?
Yeah, we tend to use it more in the US, to be honest. Yeah. So, but yeah, we use it.
Okay, so he is the submissive distiller, Darryl McNally.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Marty. So yeah, I've been in whiskey for 23 years now. Having spent probably 17 years at Bushmills and Irish Distillers, and then built a distillery in Dublin Liberties Distillery. Worked on some amazing brands, Bushmills, Dublin Liberties, Dead Rabbit, and now I'm launching my own whiskey, Limavady, which has always sort of been in my head to do. So exciting times ahead for sure.
Woo. And in honor of your dead rabbit, you can notice my jackalope back there.
Yeah.
Can you see? Right. Where is he? Right here, jackalope.
Yeah, you need light up eyes
jackalope.
on that thing.
That's enormous. Will, can you zoom in?
Your jackalope?
Yeah. You ever seen a jackalope? You've seen a jackalope.
Where did you come up with the jackalope?
What?
Where'd you get the jackalope? Wyoming?
There's a guy who makes them out of I forget if it's Utah or Wyoming.
Okay.
I have a bunch of jackalopes. I have jackalope mounted heads. My niece, we used to work for Gunpowder Gin, the Irish gin, which is a jackalope on the label. And so I thought, hey, we were talking. I said, hey, I'll get you some jackalopes to give out to some of your clients. And then she lost them as a brand for some reason. I forget what the deal was. But
and you still had a bunch of jackalope shit.
I have a bunch of jackalopes. I'm completely happy with them. They're my friends. All right.
Speaking
going
of
back
rat,
to
what's your shirt?
Oh, my shirt?
Oh.
Hair trigger?
That's a deadly rabbit.
Yeah, that's right.
Not the dead rabbit.
Not the dead rabbit.
No, deadly.
The one, giving it out, not receiving.
Actually, Darryl, one time I was in beautiful, what was that? Doolin in County Clare. Beautiful little town. If you guys have never been, don't go because it's mine. I don't want a bunch of people going there. But I was eating in a B&B and I saw these I thought they were giant rocks across the road in a field. I thought they were like giant rocks, but all of a sudden you'd see them move.
Yeah.
But they're enormous. These things were like, they're enormous. They're like this. And I asked the lady around the B&B and she goes, oh, those are hares. I go, those are hares? Those things are enormous. They could eat a dog. They were just, and there was a bunch of them. There had to be about 50 of them in this field. That's what I love about Ireland. It's like going exploring in a different world. Anyways, young Darryl, Let's explore your life. Now, you say you've been at the in the whiskey biz, what, 23 years?
23 years, yeah.
So what were you doing before that? What got you into this? Were you studying like Liz? Did you get into doinky stuff like science?
Or did you fail at everything else like I did?
I think I was just a mixed up kid. No, I was born into the family bar. I was born into the family bar in McGilligan outside Limavady. So pretty much started there, sort of pouring the most perfect pint of Guinness by the time I was 2. So it was no real surprise when I said to my mother and father that, I've got a job at Bushmills. But no, I did a short stint at a capacitor firm first, and then I got a job at Bushmills in the supply chain side of it. And then I was taken down to Irish Distillers. We were putting in the SAP computer system, sort of from a supply chain point of view. And sort of then I started to get bitten with the bug of making whiskey in the process just as a hobby. And then after that, I got offered an opportunity then to train to be a master distiller at Bushmills. So I joke it took 7 years to learn to be a master distiller, under the guidance of Colm Egan at the time. Although I laugh sometimes now, it takes 7 weeks in Ireland with some of these new distilleries, but that's another story.
I want to circle back to that, but your comment earlier, let's circle back to that, but I didn't want to interrupt your story, but
Sure.
Let's pin in it.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
So-
circle back now. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What, Lewis? Which one?
Yeah,
Because
what was
now
your
we're all
question?
curious. What did you want to circle back to?
Your comment about associating or the master distiller title, and you mentioned that really it's only in the US, and so I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit. And is that just from a consumer perspective, or is that an industry thing that US versus other parts of the world?
Yeah, I think what my job at Bushmills, for example, was like running the process day to day. So, you were very much involved in the distillery, the warehousing, the vat and the blend, and right through to bottling really, and looking after the lab as well. But, we would have used that sort of head of distillation and maturation, or head distiller. So the very operations, because, to call or to use the title as master distiller or have that accolade, I feel you need to be able to be working at something consistently and knowing when things start to go wrong and how to fix them and things like that. So it's not a title that we would use loosely, if that makes sense. It's something that you sort of grow into with years of experience. And like as you probably agree, Liz, is that you're still learning 23 years on, or I'm still learning 23 years on, as you build distilleries and things like that. So so we would use it more for sort of the media interviews and things. Yeah, we're master distiller, but again, we'd like to earn the title as opposed to just using it loosely. So yeah. So it could be anything from head distiller to head of the distilling and maturation and so on and so forth. But it's mostly master distiller we would use for media and for PR and things like that as well. And it's only
we see the term. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Nick Morgan had told me many years ago that that he hated the term master distiller. He says you guys came up with that, and I think he was referring to marketers. That marketers came up with this, especially when the guys started coming over from Scotland in the 90s, like Evan Catnack. He comes over, but really, I remember going to distilleries that didn't have anyone who was kind of well known and out there, like DIAGEO's Tianik. You go there and they're distillery managers. That's it.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's more DM.
You might be a head distiller, but they also have a distillery manager.
Yeah,
and then
they have a master blender.
Right. And a master blender almost makes sense because a lot of times a master blender might have a team. Like a Jim Beveridge has a team of as many as 12 people.
Head distiller.
Huh?
So does the head distiller, the distiller.
But that's just it. A head distiller can have a team. But I mean, a master blender is also, Liz, you blend. Don't you think that to me?
You know what this is? This is my territory. It's words. It's just words. That's all it is. Yeah.
It is.
I think there also might be some kind of jealousy with brewmaster.
Well, here, Darryl, you've been you blend. I know you vat whiskeys, you blend whiskeys, and would you say it was more difficult to kind of master that? Because I would think you have to pay a lot more attention. You got to be a lot more astute with your sense of smell and how you're smelling. And
Objection, leading the witness.
Yeah, well, I think
I object. But what would you say?
I think with years of sort of, at Bushmills, we were filling casks with new make, but we were also, making components, if you like, of, Black Bush, for example, has 3 different components in it. It is, pot still, malt and grain. So again, you were classifying the components all the time, sort of from a taste profile, and then it was a case of what it, if you did it right at the start, use the best cask you could possibly use, and it's all about consistency. At Bushmills, it was like me taking on a role and handing the role back to the next master distiller because of the rich history. Whereas when I went to Dublin Liberty's distillery, I was sort of making my own spirit for all the things that you wanted to do. And you created a single malt that you thought was perfect, and that sort of will be the legacy there. So yeah, it's a case of correct casks. I always say that the spirit's maybe 25% of the total, and the cask brings about 75%, from a flavour perspective. So yes, you really do need to have a sharp nose about you and pick it up from there.
Yeah, even in distilling, right? I mean, you gotta pick up bad notes off the distillation as it's coming out.
Yeah, and it's about consistency as well. It's about consistency of the quality of each batch that you make is consistent, and then any off notes that you get is sort of they'll sort of hit you between the eyes, if you like, because you're so used to the norm of what you want to produce.
Right.
So yeah. Sort of like
I remember guys have told me that just smelling the lots of grain coming in, you can smell a bad one. Yeah.
Well, and also think about I remember Evan Katnack telling me, he was relatively young. I think he was might have been in his early 20s when he started. But you heard from other guys too, worked at distilleries, mostly in Scotland. A lot of them back in the day got in there when they were teenagers. And having that experience, nosing casks and checking it out and tasting it, and then they've here they were just basically warehouse workers, but they worked their way up to eventually being what we would call a head distiller, a master distiller today.
Yeah,
I mean, where did Richard Patterson
start out in the warehouse smelling that stuff all the time? It's got to teach you something,
right? I mean, Richard Patterson's been in the business over 50 years now.
And his father and grandfather before him, right?
I guess so.
I believe. Yeah. I think they were both blenders.
Generational. Which is something we should talk about there, Darryl. That's a good jumping point.
You talked about Limavady being in the family.
Yeah, new whiskey.
Yeah, so there was on my mother's side, McLaughlin, there was a James McLaughlin actually owned Limavady Distillery in 1880 to I think it was 1883 or 1885. And it was said that the money to buy the distillery at that time came from McGilligan, where I actually live now, which is just outside Limavady. And they say at that time McGilligan had about 200 illegal stills at the time. So Limavady was just the legal version. So I'm not getting into that. I'm not sure if my family was involved in the illicit stills, but apparently the farm of land, or there was a couple of farms, I think they quite a bit of money, and they actually helped fund the buy of Limavady Distillery in 1880. So it was always in my head, sort of my ancestors would be turning their grave if I didn't try and bring Limavady back to life. So this is my attempt to revitalize it and bring it onto the market again. So we're launching in the US just this week. And it was great to partner with Whistlepig. Yeah, so we'll have to get you a bottle. We'll have to get you a bottle to try. But as I say, to partner with Whistlepig as well in the US market, it's a dream come true, because leave me to make the whiskey, but what would keep me up at night is making sure that people are getting a chance to buy the whiskey, and even more importantly, replace the whiskey after they buy the first bottle. Replenish.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me up at night. Whereas as for building distilleries, as for making whiskey, I can do that all day long, but getting it in front of people in the right sales and the right sort of values, I feel like we shared very similar values. So yeah, it's a dream come true. looking forward to this next chapter in my whiskey life.
Now, Darren, you mentioned there's 3 distilleries that were in that town at some point, but were you ever able to track down like where your family's distillery actually was, and if there's any remnants of the distillery, of the building, like a wall or something?
Sure, yeah. There's actually a wall up the Roe Mill Road in Limavady, and how you could tell it's still part of the distillery is, do you know the old, it was like supports, if you like, that come out like a cross, and then you've got the bars in the window, but there's the support cross, what I've seen in some of the old warehouses and Bushmills back in the day, which sort of gives like the extra support to even like the molten floors, if you remember. So that's how you can tell from the age perspective of it. So it's still there up the Roe Mill Road, and there used to be another one down by the River Roe, and apparently the Roe is the same as the George Roe, as in George Roe Distillery in Dublin. Apparently it's Rhoades, spelt the same way. So again, there's a lot of links back to Limavady, and Sir Thomas Phillips as well. He actually lived in Limavady. He owned the Dog Leap House in Limavady, and there was history to show that he had a lot of maltings there. Maltings possibly for beer, but also for malt whiskey. So huge amount of history there. It dates right back to 1750. The first distillery was there and established as a company in 1750. And I remember always Kilbeggan would have said, that they were one of the oldest in 1757. And Bushmills was established as a company in 1784. But the license was granted to Sir Thomas Phillips by the King at that time for an area known as the Route, which is right across from Donegal into County Derry, which is through Limavady, and out over into County Antrim and Bushmills. So huge amount of history there, plus our very close proximity to Islay. So I can imagine, our forefathers rowing over in a boat to teach the Scotch how to make whiskey, but maybe threw a couple of pages over the end, and maybe spelt it differently for them, no excellence, So I always use that for my good Scottish friends.
The E fell out of the boat on the way over.
on the way
That's
from
the best explanation I've ever heard.
Can I just circle back or repeat? So you said E for excellence? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice.
I'm gonna steal that if you don't mind.
I like how the Irish snuck that in. It's put an E for
Yeah.
excellence in whiskey.
So
And
if
it's
I
good
can
because the
pick up on
American
something.
whiskey's an E as well. So
Yeah. We're talking about all the illegal, illicit distilleries and really a lot more distilleries. So when you look at it, I mean, we're coming from a period where there were 2 or 3 Irish distilleries left, and now we've got over 30, closing in on 50.
yeah, there's about
So
30.
really, I mean, that period where there were only 2 or 3 is really the anomaly. Is that fair to say?
That's right. There was about 102 distilleries, I believe, in Ireland before Prohibition, the dark days of the early 1900s. So I think there was about 102. Like Korean distillery as well. Like I'm tracking the family tree as well, and I think there was a gentleman by the name of Edmund McLaughlin as well, who ran Korean distillery when James McLaughlin ran the Limavady distillery, which essentially is about 10 miles apart. And Korean obviously still now very much under the ownership of Irish distillers. But there was a lot of history I'm tracing. There was a Patrick McLaughlin and another James and a John McLaughlin, and they all were known as spirit merchants back in the day, where they they were supplied directly to bars, if you like, or to traders. So there's a huge amount. I've actually asked a local historian and genealogist to start and track the whole tree, the family tree. So it'll be good to share it with the world when we get it completely sorted out. But we're getting into areas where everybody seemed to call their sons from their father's name. So there's a John and a John and a John and a James and a James and a James. It's amazing. So we're working on that tirelessly to try and get the exact link, and again to get a bit of history on all those illicit stills too, if there's any link between that and the legal one in Limavady. So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, well, so Lew, that at one point was it from let's say the Powers closed in Dublin in 76. So Powers and Jameson went down, consolidated with Middleton down in
Right.
County Cork, And then at that point, you only had 2 whole distilleries,
Yeah.
working distilleries,
Yeah.
Bushmills in the north and Middleton in the south.
And I
I mean, that's how
remember
close
reading
Irish whiskey came to.
in
Yeah.
77, I want to say, 250,000 cases total for the category, which is
Wow.
just, I mean, shit, rye sells more than that now,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
amazing in
But
itself.
there's brands. I mean, hell.
Oh, yeah, easy.
George Clooney's tequila
Yeah, right.
sells way more than that now.
Yeah, you think about that, how the mighty have fallen, and yet the resurrection has been amazing.
Yeah. Because I think Bushmills joined Irish Distillers, I think, in 1983, if I'm correct. And then I think Cooley Distillery opened in 87, if I'm right. Marty, you probably know.
That's correct.
The date.
That's correct.
So not became the third then. So.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I joined in 1998, and even then, things were, if we were still growing at that stage, and then it really took off sort of the early 2000s. But there was dark days then, even in 1998. So it's amazing what 23 years has done. And I can't take all the praise for that.
But you'll take some. Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about your time at Bushmills, because that was actually a really interesting time at the distillery, even though from what I understood, Pernod Ricard, who owned both distilleries, had to make up their mind which horse were they going to really back, and they said, well, crap, we're going to put all our money behind Jameson. That's why Jameson still leads the category by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
But Bushmills was actually doing a lot of really cool stuff, especially in the 90s. And it really killed me when I was working over there, and I go up and go, you guys have this stuff and you ain't doing anything with it? You could be the Buffalo Trace of Irish whiskey, put out experimental.
Buffalo Trace of Irish whiskey.
Yeah, because they had, their your anniversary malt or blend had the crystal malt. I thought, why don't you have a crystal malt expression? Just a crystal malt out, just, out there. And, but so what was going, first off, what were you guys doing there? Because I know there was more than I was ever privy to.
Weed. They were doing weed, I'm pretty sure.
A lot of weed.
Yeah, a lot of weed.
Well, you'd see that on the tours. On the warehouse. Fuck off. What's the matter? That's cool. What were you guys doing there as far as the whiskey you're making? And then how was it? Were you guys ever yourselves going, dudes, why can't
do something with this? Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was a monopoly. So Irish Distillers owned essentially all Irish whiskies then. So I think they had to sell one as well. So DIAGEO bought Bushmills in 2005. But quite right what you say, Marty. It was dark days, and there wasn't a huge amount of money to throw marketing at Bushmills and Jameson. And Jameson was the Dublin whiskey, if you like. So that was the one that Irish Distillers sort of pushed and moved from there. I think the sales of Bushmills and Jameson were identical. I think pretty much the same in 1998 or thereabouts. And then, as I say, Bushmills was doing about 340,000 cases, and sort of stayed very much slight growth, but not the way Jameson took off. And then it was only really in 2005 when DIAGEO took Bushmills and grew it from probably 375,000 cases roughly up to, I think that one of the best years was about 875,000 cases. So I'm not sure where Bushmills is now. It's maybe closer to the million. I'm not 100% sure. But that was the growth from 2005 to 2015, and then Cuervo bought it then in 2015, and I left at that stage because the world had really opened up and there's lots of distilleries needing built and so on and so forth. So it was a great time to go and sort of do something different.
But how did you guys feel that the distillery about having that rum cask that you guys had? I don't know if Liz and Lew, if you've ever tried their.
I haven't had the rum cask. I had that cognac cask, and that was that made my eyes fall out.
The Caribbean rum cask. They always had a bottle behind the bar in the visitor center. But also,
That's right.
Vinny's here in
Guess where Marty
Chicago
was.
bought.
Guess where Marty could be found.
More, yeah.
Yes, was.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of
No, there's lots of magical stuff at Bushmills, and there's still a lot of different casks and experimental casks that were done from way from my time, and there's a lot of really good liquid there that Helen and the team had brought out there even recently with the the Bushmills cask finish and stuff there. So yeah, there's lots there hidden away that
you make a really good point though. If you can't sell it, why put it in the bottle if you don't have the money to get it out there and do something with it?
But even DIAGEO though, Lou, didn't. I mean, DIAGEO invested money.
No, they didn't. And they sold it and then they built Roe, which I just what? Sorry, that one's still.
Dave Broom and I got it was an argument, but he was telling me that in his research he says, "Oh yeah, Bushmills did a double distilled peated expression." I go, "No, they didn't. I worked there. I used to ask. Yeah, they didn't." He goes, "Oh, I'm pretty sure. I thought I saw it. I thought it was unwritten on there." Nah, you're crazy. Then I go to Dublin one day. I'm in the Palace Bar. Teeling's puts out a 21-year-old double distilled peated whiskey, and I'm going,
wonder where that came from.
Some old Connemara or something. It's delicious. And I go, the guy I was buddy of mine says, "No, that's Bushmills." I go, "Fuck me."
Don't fuck with Dave Broom.
I know.
No,
I don't doubt.
You never win, buddy. You never win.
Doubt the Broom. I mean, so did you guys have any sense just among you going like marketing team?
Definitely. And then I think when DIAGEO bought over Bushmills, we thought, oh, this is an opportunity for Bushmills.
I remember thinking that.
Yeah, but then I think as well, DIAGEO, there's some markets that they wouldn't put Bushmills into because they had so many brands that it might affect a brand that was doing particularly well in that country. So we sort of Bushmills maybe lost out to the sheer size of DIAGEO and the number of brands that it had in other markets. So therefore, you didn't get into certain markets. So yeah, I think DIAGEO could have done more, but yeah.
I remember thinking at one point that the main reason they bought Bushmills was so they could kill the Bushmills cream because it was the only competitor to Bailey's.
That has been said so many times, yeah.
No, at one time, Bushmills was going into Bailey's.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Times. Yeah.
Jeez.
There was this story as well.
The reciprocity in Irish distilling is just amazing.
I think did Bushmills malt grain for Guinness, or did Guinness malt grain for Bushmills at one point in their histories? I don't think it was when they're. But that's why I had heard one.
Not sure.
And where was all the Tullamore coming from?
Oh, that was Middleton.
The distillery closed in the mid-50s, right? Well. Yeah, there is malt. Yeah.
And the malt was coming from Bushmills. The malt, but then there was also single pot still and single grain going into Tullamore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Then Tullamore do, I think, at one point, I don't know if it still is, but it and Bushmills have been going back and forth as number 2.
Yeah.
In the world.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Liz, have you never been over to Ireland and checked out Bushmills?
I have not yet.
Oh, you should go. Take Darryl with you.
Okay.
Show you all the secret stuff.
The bodies.
There are bodies.
See, that's why they're building that expansion. There's all bodies under there. Jimmy Hoffa's under there. That's...
Jimmy Hoffa got a free trip to Ireland? What does the guy have to do around here to go to Ireland? Oh, die.
No, die. Okay, all right.
So what
he must be due, Marty. He must be due over soon. He must be due over to Ireland soon.
Me?
Marty.
Oh yeah. Well, not Jimmy Hoffa.
Marty.
I don't want that ticket.
You pass that ticket off to somebody else. I'm getting a round trip ticket if you don't mind.
Not a one way. Yeah, so I wanted to skip back to Limavady if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mentioned in the green room, I actually got the privilege of trying the Limavady a few years ago, and I thought the profile was super interesting, specifically some of the tropical fruit and grapefruit notes. So I was hoping maybe you could walk us through the production process and how that all leads into the flavor profile.
Yeah, sure. Well, I sourced sort of 4.5 year old liquid from distilleries in Ireland. But then what I wanted to do, we don't have a distillery as yet. You know, it's something that we want to grow the brand, and if the time's right, we will look at a distillery for sure. But we want to do it sort of the grown up way as well, because what worries me a little bit, all these distilleries in Ireland, and if you're not selling the liquid, that they're going to run into bother, and I would hate that to happen. So what we want to do is to grow the brand to a certain size, with the help of Whistlepig, and then look at the distillery after that. So I sourced the casks out of bourbon. They're all first fill bourbon. And then what I did is I sourced some PX casks from Jerez, but they're old PX casks, so they've sort of the woody note has went out of them. So it's very balanced sherry, PX sherry, Pedro Jimenez, so a lot sugary.
Hold you up there? When you say they're old, you mean they've been reused a number of times? I mean, they weren't just like sitting around in the bodega in the corner or something. Okay, all right, sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
They've used them a few times, so yeah, it was. And then what that does, it doesn't. The bourbon's bringing the vanilla and the spices and that already, so you're not getting a double hit of wood, if that makes sense. So you're getting the balanced sherry, PX sherry being a lot sweeter, and it was a very sort of short, succinct, 2 months, just over 2 months finish, just to give enough but not overpower it.
Were they re-seasoned or no? It was just
re-seasoned. Yeah, so
okay.
Old sherry can re-seasoned for 2 years by a company.
Oh, okay.
And Darryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I did that for the Dublin Liberties Copper Alley. It was old Oloroso sherry casks, and therefore, again, it didn't give too much of the woody note that I didn't want there. So I did the same for Limavady, only with PX, which gives a lot more sweeter and all those lovely flavors that you mentioned there earlier, Liz.
And Darryl, this is something you did for Bushmills. You sourced barrels from Spain. I remember begging you to take me with you on one of your trips down there. How did you learn that? I mean, was that something else you just learned on the job? All those years?
To be fair, going back to the Irish Distillers days, there would have been a gentleman who would have did all the sourcing of barrels for Bushmills and for Irish Distillers. So I suppose when I got into the job, you started to go then on an annual basis to check out the quality of the casks and so on and so forth. So it was really a spin-off from Irish Distillers days. And then once you build that relationship, the family down in Jerez sort of, they hug you the first day, and you're now part of the inner circle, and you can buy your cash from them now forever. I always quite laugh when they say, "Okay, Darryl, what company do you want me to put in this invoice?" Because it could be the Darryl's cask, Darryl's barrels. It's so.
Darryl's barrels.
Darryl's barrels. I like that. You got a broker business just waiting
pretty soon. Old Darryl's barrels.
Darryl's barrels.
That'd be pretty sweet. I mean, I went to Lisbon a couple of years of 2019. Was it 2019? I went to Lisbon. Fantastic. I'd never been to Portugal before. Just so beautiful. And I was going back down there on an annual basis. Jeez Louise, dude. That in Spain?
Throw me in that briar patch.
Yeah, and we took me an hour to select the.
We used to drive up the Douro as well. You need to go up the Douro in Portugal, and that's where we source casks from there. And there used to be this old nunnery that they converted into like a port winery then. So it was amazing sitting outside eating your lunch and the train coming up and the river and the Douro. Oh, it's amazing. Oh man. Amazing. We'll have to go, Marty, and meet up with Peter O'Connor. Peter O'Connor, he's in Lisbon, so we could do that.
He opened up a bar.
Go and see him. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen his pictures online. For those who don't know, Peter O'Connor's old. I actually hired him, and when I worked for Guinness, then He usurped. He took over all my old positions, master whiskey, spirit guy over there. Took all the credit for all the work I'd done.
And yet you still love the guy, don't you?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
Little bony guy. But he always has really beautiful Portuguese women with him too. I hate him. He owns a bar. He lives in Lisbon, and he has pretty girls around him. That's what I hate.
There's the life, baby.
Nah, yeah.
It's amazing. So yeah.
Now when DIAGEO sold, they sold Bushmills, which I still didn't get. I go, what did they get it? They sold it to. They wanted the rest of Don Julio, the other 50% of Don Julio. So they sold it. I think it was $500 million and Bushmills to get the other 50% of Don Julio. It's like, what are you doing? You're selling Bushmills? Yeah.
No, really, they gave it away.
Yeah. And so they, but now you left soon after that, and you were involved in a number of different, which was kind of interesting. You might want to talk about this just because there were a lot of projects, a lot of proposed distilleries that were going to happen. And you were kind of connected, and then they fell through, and that's very common early on, this big Irish whiskey distillery boom. But then you ended up with the Dublin Liberty. So talk about that little period, and why did you leave? Did you just think it was time, or?
I just thought it was time. I just thought it was time, and as I say, the renaissance of Irish whiskey had hit at that stage, and I just wanted wanted a challenge. I thought if I didn't leave, that you would sort of stay there for forever and ever, which would have been no bad thing either. But I just had the ambition to sort of go and try something new. So I went to Belfast Distillery, and Belfast Distillery, they sort of were funded, they weren't funded, and even now they're bought over by an American crew. So they're about to build a distillery there in Belfast, which would be great for Belfast. But then Quintessential Brands contacted me, and they said, would you be interested in doing a project in Dublin? We want to build a distillery in the heart of Dublin 8. And I went, yeah. So we said, will you come find a site and design and build a distillery? So yeah, that took over 5 years. But as I say, Limavady kept coming back into my head. God, I really want to revitalize this brand. If I don't do it now, I turned sort of 46, and I said, right, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So I took my leap of faith, pardon the pun, leap of faith, leap of the dog, and launched the Limavady brand, and then very quickly, you like that?
Yeah.
And so then I got talking to Jeff Kosak from Whistlepig, and they were saying that they were looking to branch into a portfolio of craft whiskies. That Limavady sounded like something they would be interested in, and we started to talk, and lo and behold, we got to a deal, and yeah, Limavady was born again.
But now at the same time, you're still associated to a degree. You're still doing some consulting work with Dublin Liberty.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Which is kind of fun. Did you have any say in where it was going? The Dublin Liberty's distillery was going to be located, because you're on the other side of the Teeling distillery. I mean, you guys are almost back to back, and then you're a short walk to the Guinness brewery, and then right across from Guinness is George Rowe, and right down the street, like not even a block, is the Pierce Lyons distillery. So it's like all of a sudden that one little area has become booze central.
Yeah, it's like the golden triangle, if you like, so it's good for, like Dublin. I know the last couple of years has been, hit by the pandemic. There hasn't been the same visitors coming to Dublin or coming to Ireland. But it's perfect for, whiskey lovers to come and, do a trail, if you like, a whiskey trail in Dublin. And it's all, as you say, Marty, walking distance. So, or staggering distance by the time you're finished, I'm sure. There's loads of hotels. You just book in somewhere close and take it from there.
Yeah.
As Fiona O'Connor, I think he pointed out that in the song Finnegan's Wake, they talk about Tim Finnegan. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's a very famous Irish song. If you heard it, you'd know it. But they say they lay I think they put beer at his head and whiskey at his feet. And
Uh-huh.
somehow it had something to do with that street that separates Guinness
Oh.
from the George Rowe distillery.
Um,
So it was actually kind of
Oh.
a reference to that, which I thought was kind of fun.
I remember my grandfather years ago. He would have said, back in the day in Ireland, they would have went to the pub. It was a way of getting to meet people, or Keely as they call it. You get to go and speak to somebody and tell them your troubles of the day. But they would have a few bottles of Guinness, and then the half bottle was sort of shaped like for your back pocket. But I remember it was one icy night, and my grandfather fell. And all he could feel was this wet down his leg, and he goes, "Please, please make that blood. Please make that be blood. Please make that be blood, because I hope it's not the whiskey." So you can tell that one.
priorities.
What?
Yeah.
So when you were making whiskey at Dublin Liberty, now that's out as the Dubliner. And I know that's available on the East Coast.
Yes, yeah, pretty much on the East Coast. And then, as I say, the Dead Rabbit as well was something that we worked in conjunction with the two lads.
What made that different from anything else you guys were making there?
What we did is we finished it in very small virgin American oak, so they were like 90 liter casks. We finished it for a very short, succinct finish, just to give elements of sort of more bourbon whiskey, if you like, and that sort of burnt orange feel from the virgin oak. But yeah, it was perfect for an ideal base for cocktails, and it was done in conjunction with Jack and Sean, so they very much were there during the making of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was good.
And am I right? Is all the money from the whiskey going to charity, or at least a portion of it?
Yes. So any royalties that Sean and Jack made, they're putting it to Aware NI, which is mental health for young people. So they made a donation of all their royalties from it to that. Yeah.
What about mental health for old people? Look at Lew.
That's already covered.
Oh, you're young, Marty. You're young.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I know. I just look young. Okay. Now is time, I think, where you start spilling the beans about some of your experiences in the industry, because you used to be, you were like this emissary for Bushmills and the other distilleries and the other drink industry businesses that were going at the time. It was your job you'd be contacted, you'd be invited to come, and either would be buying barrels or buying grain whiskey, because Bushmills, I understand Bushmills is going to start making their own single grain whiskey. Is that right? They're getting some.
There's plan permission. Yeah, there's plan permission passed to do grain whiskey. Yeah, so that's something I'm sure it'll be new for Bushmills to do that. But it's an exciting time there. They've built a new malt distillery, and they're going to build a grain distillery. So yeah, it's definitely a new chapter in Bushmills' life.
When I represented Bushmills, I go into some places here in Chicago and Boston. You get this, even actually once in the south of Ireland, down in Cork. No, Kerry. I was in Kerry. You get the whole Proddy whiskey thing.
Oh God.
And I have to remind me, go, well, I'm sorry, what's the Catholic whiskey? And they go, is it Jameson? And I go, that Bushmills uses single grain from Jameson, from Middleton. And also that John Jameson was a Presbyterian Scotsman. So enjoy your Irish whiskey. Yeah, fucker. Punch him in the head. That's what a weird thing, especially here in the States. I grew up in a Catholic neighborhood. I don't remember ever having big brawls with Protestants. Oh, goddamn Protestant! Yeah. Come here.
I always get that asked to me numerous times, mostly like in Boston or somewhere like that. But I always sort of just,
Boston.
I always just sort of say, like, the whiskey doesn't have a religion. It's to be enjoyed by all, and keep it very, very friendly. Yeah.
You never see a bottle walk in or out of a church on its own.
No.
Oh, that's home. No.
But what was my original? I had an original question there.
We don't know.
Oh.
My response was always that they were, at the time they were both owned by a French company anyway, so who gives a damn?
Right.
Exactly. And I think it was very, very much the distributors at that time. It was more the distributors was creating this,
Tension.
light, if you like. Yeah, and it was all the same, trying to outdo one another, sort of thing. So. Yeah.
Well, Darryl, as an industry insider, is that another weird thing? I mean, Proximo, Bushmills is owned by a Mexican company. Middleton is owned by the French. Shane is owned by Americans. I mean, as soon as a distillery pops up over there, another country comes in and buys it. I mean,
buys it, yeah.
Tullamore.
Is that crazy? Yeah, Tullamore is the Scots.
Grants, yeah. And then Sazerac bought Patty, so yeah.
Oh, that's right.
There's a lot of the big players. Yeah. A lot of the big players in there. I think having had the conversation with Whistlepig, they said that like Irish whiskey's on fire over here, and they seen the opportunity to get into Irish whiskey. So that's it's nice to hear, and it's not showing any signs of decreasing either. So yeah, so let's hope there's little space left there for Limavady. That's the main thing.
Though, I mean, all you guys don't you? It's still driven mostly by Jameson. I mean, Jameson is about 90%, 85, 90% of all Irish whiskey sold, and it's always growing. So when they say Irish whiskey's so hot, yeah, the other brands are growing, but they're not growing like Jameson. So I always wondered about that when people get into it. Don't they break it down by brands and realize?
Yeah, I always think of that Dean Martin thing. It's Frank's world. We just live in it.
All right.
It's...
But anyway, I want you to spill the beans on now. Obviously, you do not have to name names.
I believe you had a particular pot of beans in mind in the green room.
Well,
Yes.
I'm sure. I went out drinking with Darryl and his brother once in Dublin, and he had a whole bunch, but we got drunk, so I didn't remember all of it. But I remember this one. I just thought
I met you at a pub in Belfast, and the same thing happened.
Yeah,
as I recall. I vaguely recall.
Tell about the time you were called to a certain distillery, which will remain nameless, to look at a couple of, because they had some whiskey. I think they said they had some whiskey for you to look at, or barrels. I forget which.
Yeah, I think that was the time that I brought the Cooper from Bushmills to sort of look at casks, and when we arrived anyway, there was all these casks leaking, and couldn't really understand why they were leaking. So I says, well, did you size the bung hole? Did you use the right size of bung? What do you mean? You mean you get different size of bungs? So I said, if you get one maybe 1/16 of an inch more, it'll maybe work better.
I'm sorry, that's rude.
Were they all full of muslin cloth? I mean, the bung was in, but it was all full of muslin cloth, and they're palletizing.
Yeah,
so they didn't even think about laying it down.
Sometimes you just need a fresh pair of eyes. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it cost me a day out with the Cooper, a dinner. So yeah.
Yeah.
They never
Hey, but full success, right?
Didn't you? I thought you alluded to the
100%
fact that
success.
they kind of fooled you into coming down. Like it was like, oh yeah, we have some barrels for you, but first, could you check this out for us? And it was like, oh, you fuckers, you brought me down here. So what were?
But as I say, look.
Go ahead, Darryl. What?
Sorry, we lost you there for a sec.
No, sorry. I'll say I've loads of stories, but yeah, they're all fun. I could write a book on trials and tribulations of making whiskey over the last 23 years. I remember as a gentleman at Bushmills, there's a gentleman there.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Darryl, team up with Lew. That'd be cool.
there was a guy. There was a guy at Bushmills, and we were ready to go for their tea one day at 10 o'clock sharp, and one of the guys shouts on the gentleman, "Right, are you ready for your tea?" God, he couldn't find him. He'd actually fell into one of the troughs, and he was stuck in the trough.
Oh my God!
Wait, he was stuck on purpose? Was he stuck?
So what this? Yeah. No, he just had tripped and fell into it. He wasn't drunk or anything. But what they did is they drew a chalk mark around him and then went on ahead to their tea without him, just left him there. So as I say, some of the stuff we got up to was amazing, you know.
Oh my God!
Yeah, there's one other time a gentleman took the wrong container to the docks and it was empty. So just wee stories like that.
Stories.
Yeah, but was it empty when he initially took it there?
In transit.
Did you ever get that, Darryl? Did you ever find guys, over in Scotland, they always talk about some, distillery managers would talk about catching guys walking out with the little copper dogs, the little sneaky vessels that they make and stick down the legs of their pants. Did you ever catch guys?
No, I never caught. No, I never caught anybody. I'm hoping they were just.
Were you looking?
Honest, but I remember a story that. Yeah, no. So I tell a story about. I don't know if it's true. They get a dram every day, or they get a drink on the way out. But the guy that was setting it up, he maybe had one or two as he was setting it up, and then maybe took one before the workers finished at 5 o'clock. So he maybe had a few in him before the queue arrived. But there was a few other gentlemen who wouldn't have minded the second one or a third one. So they came and got theirs and went back to the end of the queue again. So they come up to the guy and they says, for their second dram, and the guy, you got yours. He goes, no, that was yesterday. Oh, so it was. So that's how you get around it.
It's very persuasive.
That was yesterday. Oh.
See, I think you guys should write a book together, because so many Irish whiskey books, they're kind of sad because they talk about the history of the industry, and a lot of the Irish whiskey's history is so tied with Irish history, and there's a lot of sad stuff that happened, and like I said, there was just 30 years ago, little over 30 years ago, the industry could have gone kapooey.
Yeah,
it really
it's pretty bleak.
Gone forever. But I think the thing about I love going to Ireland is the sense of humor of the Irish. It's the PC call. When I was at Guinness, there was for it was DIAGEO, but I over here it was all so PC and so very you had to watch what you said. Over there, fuck no. Oh, it was so crazy over there. I mean, there's things I can't say on the video, but anyways, I think that'd be great to actually come up with a lot of the real life humorous stuff that happened with the whiskey.
The fun part's stringing it together. That's what I love doing. You get the narrative, then you spice it in with the real stories, and you talk about the Irish thing. That's what I like about Ireland. They do appreciate a story.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like they don't want to hear a story here anymore. They want to hear you say, "Bruh," just like two lines. Whereas an Irish audience will relish a story. I've found. I really like that.
Not only that, but too, there's places that you can go to. I know in Galway, I know I'm going to butcher the name. I want to say it's it's Tinocton. There's a whiskey pub in Galway, a little one. That you're sitting there in the afternoon. All of a sudden, an old guy stands up. A couple of people might have fiddles. They start playing music.
Oh.
The old guy is singing. You shut up, and everyone listens. That used to be more widespread in Ireland, but now there's still few places. Or you go to the Cobblestone in Dublin. Is one of my favorite places for traditional Irish. Yeah, it's just real traditional. These kids come in, they start playing. The kids are probably not even old enough to be in a pub, and yet they're in there and they start playing. It's just so, and then you start drinking and you're having that chat, and that's fun.
That's where the term session comes from, because like when people start playing music, it's like a traditional session. So it's a bit like people would say in Ireland, you going on the session here, you go on the on the drink if you like. So any excuse.
So guys, before we go, I actually wanted to circle back to Limavady. Amazing.
Yep.
So obviously you're revital. There we go. Perfect. On cue. You're revitalizing the brand, but you also mentioned you have plans to revitalize the distillery and bring back production as well. Can you talk a little bit about what you have in store for the distillery and the production?
Yeah, well, at the minute, I've gone for plan permission in Ireland, in Northern Ireland in particular. It's just a nightmare. It takes time. So I'm at a pinnacle now where hopefully we'll get the green light on that. But as I say, we will be growing up about it before we build the distillery. So it'll be very much as the brand grows, we will then look at it and see if it's worth, because it's going to take maybe 6-7 million quid to build. So you need to be smart about it as well. We want to put the money behind the brand and whatnot. So Marty, nothing. And again, as I say, it's
your bag of shells.
It'll be an ongoing discussion. Get you your piggy bank out, Marty, and we'll get started.
I'll write you a check tomorrow.
No brawler. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Would you try to do it?
We'll just keep moving. We'll just keep moving with the plan and get the planning in place.
Would you try to build the distillery in the town and as close to the original site as possible?
Yeah, I would. I've gone for plan permission on our farm, which is a few miles outside Limavady, because I want to really grow the barley there and things like that, and self-sustainable, feed the wet grains to the cattle, and pot ale to the pigs and all that good stuff. So I want it to be, be really sustainable and really going back to that sort of age-old craft, if you like, bringing it sort of full circle. So so we build it on my father's farm. So and make it like one of these little farmyard distilleries like you see in Scotland. So maybe with a 1 million LPA output or something like that. So that's the plan. That's the hope. So keep working in tandem with WhistlePig and try to get the brand up to the point where it it makes a distillery sustainable sort of thing.
Ooh,
and
nice.
Look forward to that. Oh, there's WhistlePig. Yeah.
We're co-branding today, I guess. Yeah.
So now, Darryl, you're in the States promoting your whiskey right now. You're in San Diego. You're going to be there for a week.
Correct.
Do you have any events coming up? Any public events?
Yeah, there's several. I was at an event yesterday, and as I say, Laura here, who works for WhistlePig in San Diego. So we have events all week in California, sort of like a pre-launch, and then I'll be back in September to do a lot of blitzes. But I'm getting to meet the RNDC team now, and the sales VP of sales leaders from there, and really telling the story about Limavady so that everybody's up to speed and knows as much as possible about it. So yeah, we're launching in California, Florida, Colorado, Arizona, and Washington up on the West Coast. And then next year we're hoping to do a national rollout, but we'll see if we have the time to do it. We want to do it in a methodical and good way as well. So roll on Limavady in the US for 2021 and 2022.
See, it just seems so weird. I don't think of, when I think of Irish whiskey, I don't think of the West Coast.
I don't think of WhistlePig,
Well,
but obviously that's
California.
outmoded.
Well, right. Well,
Yeah,
California's
the best.
I mean, I can see WhistlePig getting involved in Irish whiskey from a business aspect, because it is, a lot of distributors want Irish whiskey. The only problem is there are a lot of source brands out there, and so it does muddy the water. When it's like, well, where's this from? And Ireland was suffering from a lot of bogus, kind of just like the States did, where people just coming up with fake histories of their whiskeys, and or they're it's a little shady. But you, my friend, I can vouch for young Darryl.
Real McCoy.
Darryl
Good
is
man.
truthful
Thanks.
man.
Thanks, Marty.
Yes.
It's McNally. It's not McCoy. I don't.
Ah,
It
yeah.
says it right
He's
there on the
McNally.
screen.
Touche.
Well, that could be a new saying. Hey, is that
Oh.
the real McNally?
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi. Hey, that's the real McNally right there.
See, there we are. There we are. It's at ASOK Magic working again.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. Every bottle should have a little necker that hangs out. It's like, in real big letters, the real McNally.
Little
Smart
Mandela
thing,
effect. Like,
yes.
I thought that was the real McCoy. No, it's always been the real McNally.
Send them
And
out.
McCoy was the doctor on Star Trek. This is the real McNally.
These are not the droids you want.
That's
So
what
you're not coming to Chicago. Are you going to New York on this trip? Or are you heading home after San
No,
Diego?
no, not this time. But yeah, well, I'm out here for 7 weeks, and then I will be home for the month of October, and then back out in November. And then when we come back out in November, we'll be picking those states that we're going to be launching early 2022. So I'm hoping we get to Chicago then, Marty, and we get to meet up, and I'll tell you a few more stories that we can't say on air here.
Yeah.
Now, is this a sales trip or is this a fundraising trip?
No, sales trip.
Okay.
This is promoting the brand. It is out.
Sorry, I used to work for startups, and everybody was always like, "Yep, got to put on the selling shoes, go out and raise some money." So I'm used to thinking of that.
Well, we're going to be at ADI, Liz and myself, next
Yes.
week, and you see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of guys they'll have branded distillery wear and everything, and you're sitting next. Oh, where's your distillery? You go, oh, I don't have one yet. I do. You go, why do you have a shirt
You
on?
gotta start from somewhere, Marty. You
Huh?
gotta live the vision. Live the vision.
Yeah, I don't know though. That's kind of like me putting on a cowboy outfit and just going around. Yeah, I'm a cowboy.
Well,
Don't
if
have a
you're
horse.
planning to be a cowboy, if you're going to become a cowboy,
You gotta
where's your distillery? It's in my pocket. Would you like to take a look?
Right, exactly. Here's my card. Yeah.
I built it on this small plot of land. Little tiny distillery. Take the roof off. See the
I do
stills?
remember talking to a brewer one time. It was a really hot day, and he was shoveling out a half ton of spent grain. And he stops and he looks at me. He says, "You know, if I had it to do over again, I think I'd just sell T-shirts." He said, "Everybody wants a brewery T-shirt." I said, "Brewery's a lot of work."
Yeah.
Well, think about it. There's those gift stores have saved a lot of breweries.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
distilleries.
Yeah. I remember talking to Lincoln Henderson one time, and he says, "You know, I go around to these little distillers, and a lot of them don't even have a gift shop." He says, "How can you not have a gift shop?"
I got into a debate with a woman who owns a distillery because she said, "Why waste money on stuff like that?" I go, "Because that stuff can generate money,
Makes
while
money,
you're trying
and
to sell your brand."
Get your name out, and
Yeah.
Well,
makes
I'm walking
everybody
around
into an
with
ambassador.
brand
places
name. I'm
aren't
a
allowed
walking billboard.
visitors, though, as a
What?
regulation. I said
that's
sometimes places aren't allowed visitors as a regulation. So
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you know,
Canada, apparently it's really tough in Canada because of security regulations.
Mhm.
I know
Canada's
Canada. I know.
weird.
But
So
yeah, some people do wear branded merchandise. I don't know where it
Notch?
comes from.
Notch?
It's a brewery in. It's in Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem.
No, I thought it was in 2016.
It was, but it's now too.
Hey, Darryl. So now on your journeys, are you going to take advantage, especially 7 weeks over here? Are you going to take advantage and go visit some distilleries, maybe see what the other folks are doing? Commiserate?
If I get the weekends off, so if I can fit it in, definitely try and visit. But it's a pretty full schedule too, to be fair. So yeah, I think we'll maybe have to leave that for again. I would have loved my family to come out sort of midway as well to to see a bit of the US, but you're not allowed to fly into the US from Marty. We talked about this separately. You can't get in. I had to get a national interest exception.
Really?
Because I worked for Whistle for Limavady. Yeah, so it's
that's
tough.
for the UK
tough.
right now, which is weird. I think I can actually fly to the UK. I think I can.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
not
problem.
reciprocal at
US
this point.
citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
That's
we
okay.
can fly. We can fly to the EU and back. But they Brexit, so they're not in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
You should have just kind of scooted down to the south, to the Republic, and said, "Yeah, hello, I'm taking off from here. I live down here now."
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
No,
Doesn't matter.
oh no,
Yeah.
but the Republic's part of the EU. No,
No, there's
really.
What?
You want me to come
Yeah,
over
but
there and
it's
straighten
still,
things
you're
out, man?
not
Because
allowed
I
to
will.
Yeah, that'll be good. The new Good
Well, you
Friday
better vote
Accord
for
written by
President
Marty
Biden.
Duffy. That'll be a winner.
I'm going to do the better Friday Accord. Yeah.
That's how you are quick, Marty. You are very, very quick.
When I was living over there, things were so much better for everybody. The Irish, they were so sad to see me leave.
Back in my day.
Ooh. Okay, Grandpa.
Hey, one last thing. So
Okay.
there was I was gonna say if you are going to Colorado, you should go see. We had Todd Leopold on. What was that? Was that this year or last year?
Oh God, I don't know.
I know they're just seems like
It's a blur.
This year, I think.
but
I
he's
think it was this year.
outside, just outside of Denver. So if you're in Denver, loads of distilleries there, by the way. So if you do have a little free time, but Todd Leopold, I think you guys would
cool.
have a
Groundbreaking stuff.
a wonderful chat.
3-chamber rye.
Yeah, can't shut up about it. I mean, I can't. I'm
Oh,
not.
you can.
No,
I mean,
God.
God
I don't
damn
mean
it.
Todd. No, hell,
I'll invite
everybody.
Todd to the next party. Todd, that's 4-chamber rye.
Todd, we love you.
Dude, God, we love the rye.
We love the rye.
Well,
Anything else,
That's
Darryl,
right.
that you want to shout out to the people? Because we have an audience of over 7 billion. Potentially.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
just about the number of Irish people in America. Hey? No, just great to be on. Great to be on your show. We must get you a bottle of Limavady up for you to try.
I haven't heard
And,
anything bad
hope
yet.
to see you in person soon and get a whiskey.
Yeah, very disappointing you're not coming to Chicago during this trip.
Well, maybe we can see you all up in Vermont.
I know that.
Go out the down the dirt road to Whistle Pig.
Yeah, why don't you tell us? Why don't you secretly tell the three of us when you're going to be in Vermont and have them fly us up there? I've been to Whistle Pig. It's gorgeous. I love that
It
area.
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It
I
is
think all four of us been
Yeah,
there.
it's
Everyone's been
And
there.
there's a really good brewery just down the road too. Just saying.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Lou writes about whiskey, but
Yeah.
he drinks beer. Just so
I
you
love
know.
beer. I love beer.
Oh, my God.
So,
class.
gentlemen, it's
Yeah.
been fabulous. Darryl, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us. It was great to share some stories, hear some stories, learn about your new venture, Limavady.
Yeah.
Super excited for that. I'm going to briefly skip forward to next week. So Marty mentioned ADI is next week. Marty and I will actually be at the same place in person next week. It's going to be super exciting, although we will still remain in separate screens. We've been instructed. But stay tuned
For technical reasons.
for technical reasons. We will have Randy Prosse.
Yeah. Prosse.
Prosse.
Yes,
Oh.
as he's called in France.
As they say in France, of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, the president of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
Yeah.
So join with us next week. I'm sure that's going to be a fabulous
Timely
show.
show. Timely show.
Timely
Yeah.
show.
It is.
Yeah.
It's only about, I think it's
About a month
is it
away.
5 weeks away or 4
I
weeks.
think five. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
big. They're expecting
Yup.
like 10,000 people there. It's gonna be
Awesome.
enormous.
So join us next week. Until then, Darryl, again, thank you so much
Thanks
for joining us.
again.
Daryl, you be good, little fella.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you.
Evan be gone.
Bye.
See you guys.